Welcome back to Teach English Now. In the previous lesson, we watched three teachers in action as they began a class and, successfully or unsuccessfully, managed to perform Gagne's first three events of instruction. Now let's discuss the next three events and discuss how and when these events should be implemented. The next three events from Gagne's 9 events of instruction are: present the content, provide learner guidance, and elicit performance or practice. Let's talk about presenting the content. Presenting the content refers to the idea of demonstrating and sharing, speaking and presenting, carefully constructing a lesson by explicitly giving information that will help learners understand material. In our first course, Foundational Principles, a lot of time was spent on discussing the use of teacher talk. Here is where you would do a lot of teacher talk, explaining, breaking down, scaffolding, and, well, to be honest, being front and center. Ideally, a teacher isn't presenting for the entire class period. If you remember, we shared the 80-20 rule, which informed us of the goal of presenting information only 20% of the time, while allowing students practice 80% of the time. But don't let this ideal goal make you undervalue the instruction, because that 20% of instruction is truly vital to the success of your class. Let me add one more thing. Use warm language when you present content. Why warm language? Well, in an extensive study of the best college teachers in America, Ken Bain discovered that one of the most powerful shared attributes of the best teachers was the ability to use warm language. Do you want to be the best? Of course you do. And warm language may be a key. So, what is warm language? It is the ability to communicate from the inside out, to share ideas that excite and help students anticipate a future conclusion. Bain explained that being a good teacher is like telling a story. For example, maybe you've heard this one before.
There was a story about this little girl and 3 bears, and how she went to their house, and when they were gone, she tried and tasted everything, and then they came home and discovered her.
Sound like a familiar story? Yes, it is Goldilocks and the 3 bears. But did you feel like you were inside the story? Was there a sense of intrigue or excitement? No, the language was cool and detached. It was informational, but feels irrelevant, like a user's manual or an online terms and conditions that you just go down to the bottom of the page and accept. Now consider the same story, but told using warm language.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Goldilocks. She had fine golden hair and was dancing through the forest when suddenly she stopped. What did she see? A large house owned by 3 bears.
This story is warm. It brings you in, helps you feel like you are there in the story. In other words, warm language is a bit like storytelling, and it can be done even when you aren't telling stories. When you're explaining grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, or any kind of principle, think about how to use warm language. When you present content, make sure you do so in a lively, engaging manner, a way that draws students in and makes them motivated to learn more. Clear explanations, warm language that invites students to problem solve with you, the use of story and metaphor, all of these techniques can help you to present language in a pleasing manner. After all, like we keep on saying, language is cake. Now, let's discuss the concept of providing learner guidance. At this stage of instruction, the point is to no longer be the sage on the stage, but rather the guide on the side. Your role changes. You move from instructor to helper. And your job at this stage is to provide assistance as learners attempt to recall, use, or apply the information you have given them. In Course 1 of Teach English Now, we call this guided practice. Benjamin Bloom, another learning theorist, suggests that there are different ways to get students to interact with learning, and that a good instructor is able to get students to think and examine critically. In some sense, this is the time for students to play with language, make mistakes, figure out how certain rules work and the words work and interact with each other in order to acquire language. At this stage, students may not be able to do things on their own, but in pairs or in groups or with you as a teacher, they are able to work together and accomplish a task. Finally, let's discuss eliciting performance. This, for some teachers, represents the final stage of a lesson. After you have given instruction and provided guided practice opportunities, all that's left is to have students demonstrate understanding of your instruction. This part of the lesson is actually a mixture of practice and evaluation. In Course 1 of Teach English Now, we mentioned independent practice. And this part of the lesson is where students would be given time to practice independently and show you that they understand what you've taught them. It is also your opportunity as a teacher to evaluate your learners and determine if they have learned anything or not. It is the student's time to perform. It is your time to assess. Now, a performance can be a test, a presentation, a group activity, a question and answer session. There are all kinds of ways to do it. But the point is that when you elicit a performance, you move away from being a presenter, presenting the content, or a coach, providing learning guidance, and now you become an evaluator. In this new capacity, you are allowing students to present their knowledge and/or competence of the content you have previously presented and worked on together. So, what ties all three of these events together? Well, at least a couple of things. First, these three events involve direct interaction with the material you are trying to present. Presentation and practice of material, when done well, can encourage long-term learning and acquisition and inspire students to do their best. Second, these events all involve the exchange of information from teacher to student. Think of it as the passing of a baton. First, you are in charge of the information. Then you and students together are in charge of the information. And finally, you let go of the information and give it to students alone. All right. So now that we understand these three events, let's watch teachers in action. In the next video, you'll see three fearless teachers attempt to teach a small lesson. See you there, and thanks for watching Teach English Now.